Let's talk.
Hi, I'm Lisa Todd. Welcome to this week's episode of end.formants. END.formants. You can find us on Facebook. This week we're going to talk about the stigma of mental health. Why we just seem to be absorbed by the trials of the most horrendous crimes. Oscar Petraeus, Casey Anthony, O.J. Simpson. We are also going to talk about does a terminally ill patient have the right to have their life ended? Do they have the right? Do you think they should have their right? We're going to discuss that and more on this week's Informants. It's our world. Let's talk about it. All right, so welcome to this week's Informants. We got Julie from the UK. Welcome back, Julie. You weren't here last week. We got Jenny Reed, who's been gone for a little while. Hi, Jenny. How you doing? Are you still with V?
You bet.
Okay. And we got Debbie and her sidekick Paula, or Paula and her sidekick Debbie. Anyway, we've got a few topics that we want to discuss this week, and we're going to start right off with the stigma of mental health. I'm going to go directly to Paula on this because Paula asked that we discuss this topic.
Well, Lisa, I find it really sad that in this country that people that suffer from mental illness are, stigmatized. If you have cancer or diabetes or any physical illness, you automatically get compassion and support. But if you have mental illness, people don't really necessarily take it seriously, as if it's not really valid because they can't see it. And, it's sad, and there's a stigma attached to it. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that won't date somebody with mental illness. It's like, they just won't do it. And that there's a lot of judgment around it as well. And a lot of the mentally ill are ashamed to even admit it or get help because it's,
So, Paula, you were talking about mental illness and that there's a stigma attached to it because people don't take it seriously because it's something that apparently is non-tangible.
Well, it's even greater than they don't take it seriously. They fear it. It's the unknown. I mean, people, first of all, there's so many different types of mental illness, and mental illness has been portrayed as something scary, like the movie Psycho. You know what I mean? It never gets any good press. I mean, the first thing we go to when there's a shooting like in Columbine or Newtown is mental illness. Well, we do this. We're like all armchair psychiatrists. We're not, experts. We don't know if they were truly mentally ill, So my heart goes out to the mentally ill because, I mean, they have to, suffer in silence and beat this debilitating disease on their own, often with no support system. And I'll tell you, I admire Glenn close because she's an advocate for the mentally ill. Her sister is schizophrenic and her nephew is bipolar. And she goes out and she speaks about it. And I admire these celebrities that come out and, admit and talk, openly about their mental illness, because then that gives awareness and it promotes people to see, that not all, the Adam Lanzas or the Jared Loftners are the mentally ill, but the Catherine Zeta-Joneses or the Patty Dukes. You know what I'm saying? So it's just sad. It's just sad.
In other words, you're saying that there's really no middle ground. It's either to the extreme that of people like Adam Lanza or to the extreme of somebody that has it completely under control.
Well, I wouldn't even say that, no. I'm just saying that it's not that there's no middle ground. It's that mental illness is just, I don't know how you'd get rid of the stigma other than everybody who has mental illness not being ashamed. But who would want to do that? I mean, my gosh, I wouldn't want to, I would never think that it would be a good thing to go to a job and just admit, like, hey, I'm clinically depressed. I mean, people will judge you. They judge you for far less things. And it's cruel. I mean, I hate when I hear people making fun of the mentally ill. My father was bipolar. It ruined it was chaos, and it wasn't funny. So, it's just a whole sad situation. We have to start not being judgmental and being tolerant and teaching the truth about mental illness and being compassionate instead of being judgmental, just like somebody who has cancer or diabetes.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Is just somebody who's asking a question, then I'm going to go to the other people on the panel. But I mean, there are so many new diagnoses out there from like the time that I was a kid. We didn't have things like ADD or ADHD. We were called daydreamers.
Oh, wait a minute, Lisa, you're right.
Well, hang on. So wait a minute. So I want to finish. I want to finish the point. So my question is labeling somebody who's a daydreamer now an ADD person, does that help that stigma or does that not help that stigma?
Okay, well, ADD is not considered a mental illness, so to speak, but yeah, I'm against all these labels are crazy. I mean, these kids today, at 6, 7, or 8, they're on antidepressants and Ritalin. You know what? I was called a dreamer when I was younger, and I do, and now it's ADD. You know what? My dreaming helped me write songs, helped me write articles, helped me write poetry. It was a good thing. Now it's like if I was born today, I'd be on Ritalin, and they would beat out my creativity. It's crazy.
Do you think that maybe that could be some of the reason for the mental illness that's out there because we are medicating people at such a young age?
I think mental illness has always been there. It just was never diagnosed before, but now we're going, as we always do, to the extreme where, Americans can never do things in moderation, like child abuse. It has to be where if you spank your kid, you're going to jail. You can't just give them a spanking. Now everybody's medicated and everybody has a label. It's ridiculous.
All right, well, I saw Julie smirk when you mentioned us Americans, so I'm going right to you, Julie, and then I'm going to hit Jenny and Debbie. So, Julie, I'm going to you. What's your feeling, and do you have this type of problem in the UK?
We do, and I apologise for smirking. I was just smirking at the extreme America comment. But I completely agree with Paula, actually. And it's a problem here, I would say, that mental illness isn't taken as seriously as physical illness. I think that probably clinical mental illness, such as schizophrenia, maybe even bipolar disorder, is taken more seriously than things like anxiety or stress-related mental illness, which can happen to anybody, let's say, which perhaps is more brought on by environment. I'm somebody who has overcome panic attacks myself, and the shame around that is absolutely massive. And one of the things that keeps you caught in the panic trap is that you're just really ashamed of it and you want to live as cool as you can, so you just really try to suppress it and it makes it worse. And when I went to my GP to say, oh my God, please help me, I don't know what's happening to me, I'm having these extreme bouts of terror for no reason. I don't think I can go to work tomorrow, like that. I was really scared. I didn't know what was going on. And she said, look, if you want to have counselling, I can put you on a list. We'll probably be able to have counselling in about 2 months or something. I said, but I need somebody to do something now, and she was quite dismissive because I don't think doctors really know what to do. So, yes, definitely, I think education is probably the key to that. But I had to find out for myself how to overcome panic, and I have, and it's one of my very biggest achievements.
Yeah, that is a scary thing. Paula had her hand up.
Well, Lisa, I have to say that I really have quite a distaste for psychiatrists, at least ones that I've heard of, that, people I know have gone to, because I'm sorry, I'm not a shrink and I'm not a medical health professional, although my first major in college was psychology. But I think unless you're like literally on the ledge, when you go into a psychiatrist's office, they shouldn't be snap diagnosing you on a first appointment after seeing you for 15 minutes and throwing you on medication. I'm sorry. I think that's negligence. They over-medicate. A friend of mine's younger brother, the kid was 19 years old, died because his psychiatrist over-medicated him. He died. Okay? So, it's just... And a lot of these psychiatrists and therapists are nuts themselves. And I'm not saying that to be funny. They really are. And, I think that there are some really good psychiatrists and good people in the medical health, profession. but they need to take the time to diagnose you and listen to you and get to know who you are, to really get to a real grasp on what you have and what you are, instead of looking at you and making you fill out a form. Okay, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I had a GP, read it, just a family doctor, and every time you go in, okay, he'd make you fill out a form, and he told every single patient of his they were bipolar. 4 of my friends went to him. They said the same thing, okay? My friend went into him for a yeast infection. She came out with Zyprexa, okay, which is an antipsychotic. He said she was bipolar. What is a yeast infection? And this guy is, I mean, he does it to everybody. Everybody I know who goes to him, they say the same story. This is a GP. He shouldn't be diagnosing mental illness. That's not his field. Leave it to psychiatry.
Well, absolutely, and that is negligence, and by all means, somebody can make a report on that man.
Right, I have, because he's done it to. I mean, he's done it to a lot of my friends, and I'll tell you, if you look at a lot of these antipsychotics, they can make you psychotic. They have side effects where you turn into a drooling,
absolutely,
stuttering, and you know what? I mean, the weight gain. Zyprexa causes diabetes. I mean, these doctors, they play God. And unless, again, I'm going to say this, and I'll end with my rant on this. Unless you've seen a patient, and by the way, I suffer from very bad obsessive-compulsive disorder. I have all my life. They think that I had a lot of strep infections as a kid, and that affects your brain and the receptors. You get OCD. Okay, so, but I saw a doctor for a long time before he started treating me via any kind of medication for that. He didn't just look at me and say, oh, you have this. Oh, you have, and he doesn't believe in labels. He'll tell you that. So, on to Debbie.
Medication isn't necessarily the answer anyway, and that does seem to be the quick fix. And of course, if somebody needs some medication to get them through the really hard stages, then fair enough. But
oh no, Julie, I agree completely.
Personally, for me, I found exposure therapy, going to the places that I was afraid of, just staying there until the fear passed, as it always does for everybody, and just retaining my unconscious mind. I didn't take any drugs or anything because the doctor just told me to go away, really. I think giving somebody tablets sometimes can be good. But obviously, you need to sort out the problem rather than just curing it with drugs.
Right, I agree, and I am in no way condemning medication. I think medication is necessary. I think people that suffer from chemical imbalances must be on medication, and I've seen it save lives. But I'll tell you what I'm against: when they throw everybody on Xanax, which is the highly addictive medication, and then you got people with a drug problem. I mean, you don't need to be on Xanax. I have friends that take it like Pez. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
It's a drug of choice.
All right, so I want to go to Jenny real quick. Jenny, what's your feeling about this?
Well, so many different things to say. Pick one. As somebody who has never had a diagnosed mental illness, I have to say that, you're all talking about what the stigma is about, the people who have it. And, for me, it's like, well, I try to be a very sensitive person. I always do. But frequently when somebody says that they have a mental illness, my first reaction, it depends on how they phrase it, but my first reaction as soon as the word mental illness comes out is skepticism. I have to admit it, because most of the time when somebody claims they have a mental illness, I get the feeling that they really don't. And of course, obviously I'm playing armchair doctor, but I've generally seen, oh, please let me finish. I've generally seen people who say they have a mental illness and use it as an excuse for something. And I'm not talking about like Julie's panic attacks. Those are obviously real. I'm talking about like a friend of mine, for example, a friend of mine who got fired from a job and then claimed that he got fired because he was depressed. Maybe true, maybe not. But then he tried to get another job, and when they didn't hire him, he claimed that it was discrimination because he was depressed. It's like, could they see your depression? Did you tell them about your depression? I mean, and then he said, and then he decided that he couldn't bother to go out and look for jobs because he's depressed. And maybe depression is real for him, but it looks to me from, looking at the outside, it looks like it's all BS. And of course, then I sound like a complete jerk to anybody who has real depression, because they're like, well, how do you know? And I don't know, and that's exactly the problem. And so I'm sort of I'm not really I don't really have a point other than the fact that it is invisible. And people, I've seen things where I think people are inventing a supposed mental illness to excuse themselves, and then you're talking about people who have genuine mental illnesses who are embarrassed, possibly because people like me have what's the word I'm looking for?
You believe that they're using it as a crutch?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a nasty mess, and it's something that people all everywhere, people have to realize that it's not simple. It's a lot bigger than this or that or the other thing.
All right. Well, Paula had her hand up.
Jenny. Okay. All I'm going to say, and I'm going to try to be as gentle as I can, because you hit some buttons there. Because I have some friends that suffer from mental illness, and I lived with a father who was bipolar. You cannot see physically somebody depressed or somebody mentally ill, especially everybody manifests, let's say you use depression in this person. Everybody manifests depression differently. You have people who can't get out of bed and they cry and they I mean, that looks depressed to me, and I see your point. But then you can have somebody that can, function and, go to parties for some, look, a friend of mine has a brother who's been clinically depressed his entire life. He was diagnosed as a child. This guy works a high-powered job. He socializes. He's always depressed. I mean, I don't know why anybody would make up they have mental illness. To me, that flies in the face of the stigma. I don't know why somebody would make that up. I'm not saying that somebody might not make it up as an excuse to something. I mean, I don't know, but I can't imagine somebody doing that. And Jenny, I'll tell you, you just said that you've never suffered from it. Be very blessed, but I would be a little more tolerant. And when somebody tells you they're depressed, maybe take it at face value instead of assuming it's a crutch. Unless this guy, I mean, look, there are people, I'm sure that I'm not saying there isn't anybody on this planet that would try to make anything up. But I would go with just taking somebody at face value, because honestly, I can't imagine somebody making that up.
And Julie had her hand up.
Yeah, I think the trouble is that unless it's a clinical mental illness like schizophrenia or something like that can be measured, generally it's a subjective thing that you can only describe to your doctor or psychiatrist or whatever in language. And nobody can know what it's like for me to feel panic. And if I'm driving on the motorway and I start to feel these fear symptoms, it don't look like I'm afraid, because I'm trying to look cool, because I'm ashamed of the fact that I'm afraid, because there's no reason to be afraid. So I suppose it is completely subjective. So I can understand why people would be skeptical about it, because there's no way of measuring it other than, well, I say that it's true.
Okay, well, we've left Debbie out of it. Debbie, what do you got to say?
Okay, well, I feel that, obviously the rate of pharmaceuticals in this country has really gone up. It's skyrocketed. Okay, and I think the only people who truly are benefiting from this are the pharmaceutical companies. Mm-hmm. Because there are probably a lot of people out there who are misdiagnosed, with whatever, with whatever diagnosis they might have, whether it be, depression. But then, like Julie was saying, that's even kind of on the cusp, whether it's truly depression or not. And I just think another thing is it's an easy way out for these doctors, to make an easy buck. When you come in the office, just say, hey, you're depressed, so here's some pills, and take some pills. And again, you can also Craigslist. You can order. I think that the FDA had a crackdown a couple, I don't know, like probably 6 months ago, that you can actually order Prozac. You know, people who have these extra pills hanging around, they sell them on Craigslist. So, you know, if somebody just is taking them for kicks, and then all of a sudden, you know, they do develop something because of that, you know, chemically, and you know, that could be also the cause of all these
Well,
diagnoses.
that's what I said earlier. You know, as far as, you know, kids on Ritalin and stuff, could that in fact, you know, be be the beginning of their problem, because they've been put on these drugs, and Ritalin, as we all know, will affect a child differently than it will affect an adult. It has the adverse reaction on an adult. So, I mean, that's the point that I was making at the beginning when I was called a daydreamer. I mean, thank God that's what the label was, and there wasn't a little pill that was supposed to fix me, which I also think that gives the wrong impression to a kid. Take the little pill, it'll fix your problem, and as you get older, when you have another problem, go out on the street and find another little pill. Okay, we're recording again. Everybody had their hands up from that last thing. Paula, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Okay, I just need to address when Jenny and Julie said skepticism. Okay, mental illness is mental, but it's physical at the same time, meaning when you're schizophrenic or you're depressed or you're bipolar, your brain chemicals are out of whack. And there are tests that psychiatrists can do where they actually measure your serotonin levels and uptake so they can see it. And when a psychiatrist diagnoses somebody, I mean, they know what the signs are. They know the symptoms. So if somebody gets diagnosed as depressed or bipolar or schizophrenic, they're not lying. They're not making it up. It's like saying to somebody, well, how do we know you have breast cancer? You don't look it. I mean, come on. You can't see diabetes. I mean, it's just, you know what? If somebody tells me they suffer from depression or mental illness, I'm going to take their word for it. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm not going to think they're making it up for attention. Anyhow, on to Debbie.
Well, okay, but Julie had her hand up, and Jenny had her hand up. We're gonna go with Jenny, and then we'll hit Debbie. Jenny, you had your hand up for a minute.
Yeah, well, you know, I have symptoms that I have behavioral mannerisms that could be perceived as obsessive compulsive disorder. I know for a fact I don't have it. I mean, you know, I got myself tested for it at one point, and whatever the test is, it said I don't have it. And yet people look at me, and sometimes they say, you know, people look at the way I behave, the way I, you know, constantly put on chapstick, or you know, the way I get kind of upset if things aren't organized exactly the way I left it and stuff like that. And they say, you have OCD, don't you? And it's like, no, I don't. I just don't. But you know, a lot of times I can see the advantage. If I were dishonest, I could see the advantage of saying yes, because so many people would be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get you.
What's the advantage? But I don't, Jenny, tell me because I'd like to know, because I have OCD. Tell me the advantage of saying you have it. What's the advantage? Do you get a free pecan pie? I want to know the advantage.
If you can get a free pecan pie for it, go for it. But no.
Yeah, but what's the advantage? What's the advantage?
She's telling you.
The advantage that I see is that if I were to say yes, these behavioral issues have a name, it's OCD, people would be like, okay, I get it. But you know, the way it is, sometimes, I mean, most of the time people are just like, okay, you're you, whatever. But every once in a while I run into somebody who says, okay, you don't have OCD, so you have no excuse. What's your problem? And it can get very mean sometimes. I've actually had a couple of arguments about how I'm an unreasonable person because I exhibit symptoms of a disease that I don't have.
But Jenny, I understand. Okay, that makes sense. But honestly, if my OCD,
like Vicky said, I'm just weird.
See, but that's what I'm saying. Weird. You see, automatically weird OCD, weird depression, weird that. You just prove my point. But here's the thing: if my OCD, I mean, my OCD it affects me. It doesn't, I don't make everybody keep cans in a separate order and, and do things that would, I guess really infringe upon them. But let's just say I decided that all my friends had to, keep their shoes lined up in a certain way. And I was being a real pain in the ass. I'd still be a real pain in the ass, whether I had OCD or not. My OCD doesn't make it, it's not an excuse.
But people use it that way, and people accept it as one.
Who uses, I've never known anybody to use depression or mental illness as an excuse to act badly. I haven't.
I have. May I give you an example then?
Please.
Okay, I have a friend who actually watches this show, so I won't name her, but she'll probably recognize herself anyway. But she goes to the mental hospital on average about every 3 to 4 months to get her meds adjusted. And she seems to think that this is perfectly normal, and she's completely baffled whenever it occurs to her that, or whenever someone mentions that they don't do this too. But
wait, I'm confused. What do you mean? She thinks everybody should be on meds?
Yes, she does. And,
she's probably right.
Well,
I don't agree with that.
I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm joking.
But anyway, so like she goes to the mental hospital about every 3 months or so to get her meds adjusted. Her husband does the same thing. Both of her kids do the same thing. In fact, she decided in both cases that they needed drugs before they were a year old, and she went out and found doctors. But the thing is, every time anybody...
Wait, her infants are on medication?
They're not infants anymore, but yeah, she put them on medication when they were infants, and she found doctors who would do it.
Whoa.
And so I mean, this whole family, they keep going to the hospital all the time to get their meds adjusted because...
It's like the bipolar Brady Bunch, right?
Yeah. But here's the part where she's using it as an excuse, So every time any problem in her family occurs, or between her family and anyone else, or inside the family, or whatever, it doesn't matter whether it's the kids performing less well in school than she thinks they should, or than she thinks they're capable of, or whether her husband just lost his job or refuses to go look for it, or whether it's her own issues, like she has a high-paying job who has high expectations, and she pulls out her mental illness and says, your expectations are too high, you can't fire me because I have mental illness, but you have to lower your expectations because I have mental illness. And
because Jenny, is she probably goes under the American Disabilities Act, right?
Right. And I honestly, I can't tell you what, if anything, I cannot tell you what her mental illness is. She keeps changing the words she uses every time she tries to explain what her problem is. But it doesn't matter. When her two kids fight, it's not because they're kids who fight, or it's not because this, that, or the other thing. It's because they have mental illness. Everything in her world is because of the mental illness. The mental illness that keeps changing, definitions and whatever. But, and to me, again, I'm not there. Obviously, I sound very judgmental, and that's a terrible thing, and I'm sorry, I really am. But to me, when I look at this constant soap opera, I'm always thinking, you've got to be kidding me.
Jenny, can I make an observation?
Absolutely.
The story sounds so crazy. I think you're paranoid schizophrenic. It doesn't even exist. I'm just kidding. But what if, let me play devil's advocate.
Oh, please.
Maybe she does have mental illness. Maybe her husband does, and because it's genetic, maybe the kids do, and maybe
Absolutely.
They really are mentally ill.
But is that really the reason for every single problem in their lives?
Maybe it is. Mental illness is debilitating. Maybe it is.
And let me just tell you, I'm laughing. I'm laughing hysterically because she's got me convinced that this woman has mental illness if that's her behavior. There shouldn't even be a debate about that. She's fucking sick in the head.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
Lisa, see what I'm saying? She's fucking sick in the head, and that is the stigma. But if she has...
Well, let me tell you something, Paul.
Wait. No.
Listen, the only reason why I said she's fucking sick in the head is because I think anybody that puts their children on medication as a fucking toddler, I mean, as an infant, not even a toddler, they're not even a toddler yet, is fucking sick in the head. And that has nothing to do with mental illness.
Are you a psychiatrist?
It has nothing to do with mental illness.
How do you know look, I'm not a psychiatrist. Maybe infants, are they manifest sin? Maybe the infant's like levitating off the bed. How do we know?
Well, I could tell you this much. She had to go through 18 psychiatrists who refused her before she found one who would give her kid the medication.
Okay, well then, Jenny, that's weird. Yeah, then that is weird.
Okay, so you could say weird, but I can't say fucking sick in the head over that? I'm still going with fucking sick in the head over that.
Because Lisa, when I said weird, I'm not sick in the head. Look, this woman does have some mental illness. She sounds like she has Munchausen syndrome, and some mental Munchausen syndrome. But when you, and I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek here, but when you scream she's sick in the head, then you're perpetuating the stigma of the mentally ill. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I have one more thing.
Okay, Debbie wants to say something.
Debbie.
Yeah, the only thing just one last comment. Paula mentioned, the serotonin levels in your brain, when they're low, or, that's the cause of depression. However, this is the trending. It's like everything is cured with a pill, whereas there are holistic, things that people can do that maybe they won't have to take the medication. But it's an easy way out for the physicians to do that, to just give you a pill rather than saying, okay, let's try this first, let's do this, and then, I think medication should be used as a last resort, because to me, just as Paula was saying, once you take medication, it can trigger other things, other chemical reactions, and then, you could develop something else.
Listen, I think half of the time that these doctors are turning us into drug addicts. That's what I think.
Exactly.
That's what I think. All right, so we had some other topics that we wanted to get through this week while keeping the show to an hour, which is our own mental illness. But we wanted to talk about the rights for a terminally ill patient to be able to employ somebody or employ somebody like a Dr. Kevorkian. So that was a topic. I have my own feelings about that. This time I'm going to hit Julie from the UK. Julie, what is there anything like that in the UK where if somebody's dying, they could, pretty much say, end it for me, please?
No, it's still illegal here at the moment, but it's something that's definitely got a lot of publicity, and people are campaigning with politicians to do something about it. There is a case in Switzerland where people do go from the UK where you can actually commit assisted suicide. Until very recently, people's loved ones who went with the patient who committed suicide would be prosecuted when they came back to the UK for manslaughter. That's no longer the case. So people can go with their loved ones to say goodbye to them now. So at least that's changing. Personally, I think that if somebody wants to end their life, then why shouldn't they be allowed to? And I think it's much better that they do that with their loved ones around them, rather than at the moment, suicide is so messy and hidden away, and someone will find your body, in a pile of vomit and blood, and it's horrible for the relatives. So surely it's much better if we're open about it. It's their life.
It's also about dignity, isn't it?
If they want to end it or not.
But it's also about dignity, isn't it? You wouldn't want your family to find you that way. I wouldn't want my family to find me that way.
I think, if somebody is terminally ill and they decide to end their life before they get to the stage where they can't, have any say over it, then that's up to them. Also, I think if somebody is just, I don't mean just, but if somebody isn't physically ill but they want to end their life and they are going to commit suicide, then I believe they should be allowed to say goodbye to their family if they want to do that. Obviously, I would try to talk somebody out of suicide, but if they really decide that that's what they want to do, then it's their life. And, you know, I don't believe
Depends on who it is.
the government has the right to stop them.
Jenny heard me.
I heard you too, Paula.
I can hear you muttering over me there.
No. Yeah, I'm gonna let her. I'm gonna put it to her because we all heard her. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I just said I wouldn't talk somebody off a ledge depending on who it is. You know what I'm saying? But
She'd push him.
This is my take. Okay, if we euthanize animals when they're suffering, but people have to suffer. This is my belief. If you want to end your life, I don't care what the reason is. You should have that option. I don't care if you're terminally ill or you're depressed or you're just sick of being in the world. They should have a clinic set up called, Deaths Are Us or something. And if you want to go in and I'm sure insurance companies, they can set up their own, little billing. They can charge you an arm and a leg. You won't be here to have to pay it. So, they can hook you up and bye-bye. And that's it. Goodbye. And actually, I have
there needs to be a bit more of a back and forth. Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, give them a questionnaire. Make them write an essay. You know what? I'll tell you, I have six friends. I would gladly drive to the place today if they wanted. What could I say? I'll give them the ride.
Okay, Debbie, what's your feeling about people being able to end their lives if they're terminally ill?
Well, if they're terminally ill, I think, if it's absolutely inevitable, that they're going to die due to their illness or whatever circumstance they have, then yes, I do think they have that right. However, if there's if somebody just happens to go through a time of their life, maybe they're having a bad time in their life, and they feel that they have to end their life, then I think that's when they should have some kind of counseling.
What after counseling, and they still want to die?
If they still want to die after counseling, well, I mean, it's a decision,
It's their decision.
It's their decision.
Yeah, but I don't think that they should have help in that. I don't think that there should be help for that. I think there should be help for those people that are terminally, ill, and that they have some sort of incurable, painful disease, but not because somebody's depressed. Because I think that then they can do it on their own. They don't need help. That's my feeling. That's my feeling.
Why do they have to do it on their own when they can just have a gentle... Have you ever seen Soylent Green? All right, Soylent Green, in the movie, this guy, he's in fine health, but he's elderly, and they show him beautiful PowerPoint, beautiful flowers as he goes off to, heaven. If it's up to you, if you want to die, listen, if you want to die, you shouldn't have to drink cyanide or, you know what I'm saying? Just, I'm telling you, we could have like a club, like get 60 really miserable, nasty people together that are done with this world. And honestly, I hope Mohammed Ahmadinejad of Iran would be willing to go first before all of us.
But how do you know in that group of 60 people there isn't someone there who can actually do good in the world or find a cure?
But they don't want to be alive.
But maybe they're just having a bad time in their lives and they need like some counseling to get them through that.
Well, but what if they kill themselves anyway, though, Debbie?
Right.
Okay, well, I'm going to go and kill myself now. I've got the razor blade and I'm going to do it. It's like, surely it's better that they die, as you say, with dignity than doing it in a mess, and someone's going to clear that up, and it's horrible for their family. Surely it's better for them to be able to say goodbye to their loved ones. Because at the moment, if you know someone's going to commit suicide and you don't try to stop them, then the police are going to want to know why here. So surely, if they're really determined, I get what you're saying, and I understand that I would definitely try to stop them. But if they're really determined to do it, then surely it's better to do it with dignity.
Well, it's better at that moment. It's better at the moment when you're in the moment. I mean,
I agree with you, Debbie. You and I are on the same side on this one, Debbie. If somebody wants to kill themselves because they're having a rough patch in their life and they just don't have the strength to go forward, I don't think that there should be some service helping them end their life. If they want to do it, then you go ahead and you do it on your own. If you're terminally ill and you're suffering and there is no hope, then I understand having the aid of somebody making it easier for you to pass. But in the meantime, Jenny had her hand up and we haven't given her a chance to talk. Jenny.
Oh, well, I'm actually in agreement with Julie mostly. You know, there are a lot of reasons not to kill yourself, but there are a lot of reasons sometimes to kill yourself. I mean, in certain situations, obviously. And that's a personal choice. And in my opinion, as long as somebody has gone through the reasons, you know, there's medical reasons, there's physical pain, there's you know, potential costs. If you're kept alive artificially, you can drain your family's savings. I mean, and of course those are reasons involving terminal illness. But you know, if you're very depressed, you could have some very logical reasons to kill yourself too. I mean, there's all these reasons, and if you have actually, if you didn't go, oh, I'm having a bad day, I'm going to kill myself, you know, if it's like that, no. But if you thought it through very carefully and that's your decision, maybe you have to have, you know, a counseling session or two so that, you know, a professional agrees with you. Maybe not. That's up. But you know, if you've made this decision, I think that it really should be a very calm, kind way to go. You know, with help, somebody helping you, somebody like Dr. Kevorkian maybe, or similar, in a nice environment with
Angelina Jolie
around.
And all of that because, and Jenny, let me get clear on this. All of that because somebody just doesn't have the strength to believe that a month from now life will get better.
All right, Lisa, can I say
No,
something?
wait a minute, because I want to make sure I'm understanding Jenny.
Well, it's a very personal decision. I mean,
It's a very permanent one too, though, right?
Well, yes, it is permanent. It's death. Death is, to the best of anybody
Exactly.
lives knowledge, is permanent.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that the person couldn't go ahead and do it on their own. I'm just saying I don't think that we should offer a service for that. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, Jenny, go ahead.
Well, like I said, if you're feeling very emotional today, you go and you show up at the service and say, I'm having a bad day, kill me. They should say no. But you know, if you go through a lot of counseling and this is really the right decision for you, and I'm not an expert, I couldn't say what it counts as a right decision. I mean, there are some obvious right decisions, like I'm in a lot of physical pain, I'm going to die anyway, but I'm going to take my family's savings with me if I carry it out. That's a damn good reason to die. Then again, some people might be in those, it shouldn't be mandatory either, because, you know, some people in those exact same situations might say, yeah, I know I'm going to take my family's savings with me, but I believe that my soul, my personal religion says that my soul will go to hell if I kill myself. There are people who believe that, or
yeah, all the Christians that I know believe that.
Right. So you know, it's a choice.
I'm sorry, Jenny. Julie, what?
I said we're not going to force them to commit suicide.
No, but I mean, she brought up a very valid point about, you know, religion, and religion does come into play with that.
Isn't it? Nobody's saying that you have to commit suicide.
Nobody's saying that today, but once you know, you have to think things through. You know, once assisted suicide becomes normal, what's the next step? Let's make sure that we say in advance that's not okay. You know, we have to set the parameters and say, you know, this is always going to be a voluntary thing. That's my science fiction side coming out, I know, but yeah, it's a personal decision. That's all I'm saying. It's a personal decision, and yes, I think that you should have help in this decision, both professional help and your loved ones if you have any loved ones. If you don't have any loved ones, that's another good reason, maybe, I don't know. But
Now you want me to sign up for it, Jenny.
Okay, well, Paula had her hand up.
I don't want you to.
I'm joking. Honestly, this is what I think. I think that you should be able to end your life with help for any reason after you've gone through a set amount of therapy where it's determined that this isn't a temporary, bump in your life. And once you've gotten counseling and you still want to, then I think you should be able to do it for whatever reason.
That's
Period.
what I said.
Right, I agree with you for once. Agree for once. Which is just weird.
We're still arguing with each other.
Yes.
No, this is what I think, and I'm saying exactly the same thing as you.
Yeah, well, I think this. So there.
Debbie, what do you have anything you want to end on this before we go into the next topic?
No, not really.
Okay. All right, so I think we had one more topic this week, and the topic again, I think it came from Paula, and it was about why we are so engrossed basically in watching like the Casey Anthony trials, and I would assume as well as the O.J. Simpson trials, and all of the most horrendous things, and we're glued to that, and we kind of like feed from it. We become almost addicted and obsessed with it. So Julie, do you deal with that in the UK? I mean, do you guys have that same like phenomena that we do with stuff like that?
Not much. I don't think so. I personally don't watch a lot of TV anyway, but I would look at the BBC website for my news. And so we do hear about Oscar Pistorius, for example, who shot his girlfriend, as I'm sure that you've heard about that. But it's not really
The Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not really sensationalized. It's reported as this is what happened, and now he's on bail, and he's going to have to go to court, and he's probably going to go to prison for the rest of his life, like that. Whereas I think what you're talking about is more like spectacular sensationalism.
Where we're actually watching the trial.
Okay, well, we definitely wouldn't be able to do that here because we can't record in a court here.
Okay. Paula or Debbie? Debbie or Paula? Paula took or Debbie. I want to kill myself because I don't know the difference. Go ahead, Debbie.
Counseling.
Yes.
Okay, I think that a lot of it's because actually, as being just on human interest, I think we're kind of bored with our lives, and like anytime anything like this comes along, it's like everybody has to watch it and get involved and be all enthralled in it. And also it's once something like that happens, it becomes like wildfire, and it's almost like if people don't know about it, then they're not like the in crowd. You know what I mean?
So you think it's almost like water cooler talk?
No, it's deeper than that.
No, I think that once something catches on, then somebody else has to watch it and see, and they have to comment on it, and it becomes like this social thing.
Like a water cooler talk.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so you did agree with me. Tell Paula to shut up.
Yeah, shut up. When in reality, we should be actually focusing on things that need to that need to actually benefit us in the country. You know what I mean? Like, you don't hear people really talking about politics like that, or you don't hear them really talking about, good causes, or, I mean, they talk about it, but they don't really get into it. They don't say, oh, what's the latest update on, on the budget cuts, and, like, what are you going to do? Because that's boring. I mean, let's face it, it is, and it's not as exciting as, somebody hacking, their friend up or whatever.
Or shooting their
yeah,
partner.
It really is sad. But that's the way we are. I mean, that's just, human behavior.
All right, well, we're going to go to Paula.
All right, I agree with Debbie, but I'm going to take it further, a little further. I think as human beings, we love to judge other people, and we love to look into the darkness and the skeletons in their closet and just see how sick they are. I think we love it. That's why we rubberneck when we see a bad accident. We love it. People just get off on it. It's sick. I don't even understand why why they
That
over
was
there.
Paula's version of rubbernecking right there.
Right, because I'm trying to get Debbie to notice the dog ran outside because she never notices. Anyway, it's sick because people just don't really care about, the other stuff in the world. They just want to see the darkness of humanity. And I don't even understand. It used to be illegal to televise courtroom hearings. I mean, look, I'm obsessed with this Jodi Arias case. I'm obsessed. I was obsessed with Casey Anthony, but I'm also obsessed with politics, and I know everything that's going on in the country as well. So, I have my dark indulgence, but I know people that could tell me they're practically no more than the prosecution about Casey Anthony, but they don't know that who Chuck Hagel is. So, I mean, there's a problem with that. It's just bizarre.
Jenny.
I don't think I have anything to add on this one.
Okay. Well, Debbie, she put the camera right in front of you. What do you got?
No, well, a lot of it is actually from the media too, because they only sensationalize the stories that are out there, and it's that part of the world is so small. There's so many other things, but then again, it's what the public wants.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they feed into what the public wants, and obviously this is what the public is demanding. Is stories like these, or they wouldn't be sensationalized.
Well, let's talk about also. Can we talk about Blade Runner and Jodi Arias, and if we think they did it?
Well, yeah. I mean, we obviously I wasn't there, so I'm not going to say.
Are you sure you weren't there?
But
I
and
think I saw you in one of the videotapes.
and I don't mind talking about
I
it.
saw you in the closet.
Listen, I helped him put his fucking legs on. Hang on a second. Okay, so we're talking about, whether we think that some of these people that are up for these crimes are insane or not insane, and exactly what's going on with these trials that we know about and the accusations made about these people. So Paula, we're going to start with you.
In a nutshell, I mean, we're pretty much everybody's familiar, and if not, real quick, Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner, who shot his gorgeous model girlfriend to death, claiming that he didn't know that she was in the bathroom and she thought it was an intruder. And then Jodi Arias, this 28-year-old vixen who's very pretty and doesn't look crazy, is being tried right now, and she's testifying right now. She's on the stand, which is shocking because they usually don't put them on the stand, for butchering her 30-year-old Mormon boyfriend who had so much life to live and looked like he could do such beautiful things in this world. And, she changed her story 3 times. First, she said she wasn't there. Then they found she took pictures of the murder while she was murdering him. She deleted the pictures and threw the camera in the washing machine, but the police authorities retrieved it and found the pictures. So then all of a sudden it went from she wasn't there. Then 2 ninjas broke in and tried to kill them, and she escaped, and now she's admitting she did it, but it was domestic violence. Look, it's an open and shut case. I hope that another village isn't missing 12 idiots like with the Casey Anthony trial, and they don't find her, like acquit her or give her second degree. She needs the chair. Oh, wait a minute, we don't give the chair anymore. We do lethal injection because it's too inhumane to make these monsters suffer. And I'll tell you my take on the insanity plea. There's no such thing. If you're that insane, I don't care if you're eating your shoes and eating your ties and eating your feces. If you kill somebody, you should fit, your punishment should fit the crime. I don't care if you're insane. And I'll never forget the Hillside Stranglers, Kenny Bianchi. He tried, back in the 70s, he and his cousin, Angelo Buono, were arrested for the murder of like 30 women on the hillsides of California. Okay, I don't know if you guys remember that case.
Yep.
Well, Ken Bianchi claimed insanity, and he tried the insanity plea. His lawyers represented him with the insanity plea. He claimed that he didn't do it, his alter ego Steve did it. Well, then Steve should get the death penalty, and doesn't Steve belong in your body? Sorry. It's ridiculous, the insanity plea. You know what? And what's with these states that don't enforce capital punishment? Why is Charles Manson still alive on our tax dollar? Why did it take Ted Bundy years through appeals to get executed? It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyhow, on to Debbie.
The the only thing insane is that these people are on either in prison or on death row for so long. I think, yeah, they once somebody is determined, to be guilty and given the death penalty, it should take place, and it shouldn't take years.
Like at the trial.
You shouldn't be able, have that ability to appeal it.
Well, I want to say this.
When they say guilty, boom, you're dead. That's it.
I want to say this because I've read, there was a book that I had told you about, Paula, called The Minds of Billy Milligan. And he's the only...
At least I ordered it.
He is the only person that was gotten off from the insanity plea for having multiple personalities.
So was the Boston Strangler, though.
So... Well, in modern day time in this country, this guy is the only one. You'll see it in the book. But this is what I have to say. I have no problem with the death penalty. My only issue with the death penalty is make sure without a reasonable amount of... There is no doubt. Ted Bundy had his teeth marks on these women. There was no reason. He was guilty. He should have been executed long before he was. That is my only stipulation with the death penalty. Make sure the DNA is there. Julie, what's your feeling? Do you believe in capital punishment?
No, I don't. It's
what?
illegal.
Why?
Well, I don't think anyone's got the right to take the life of anybody else.
Unless you're sitting there depressed and you want somebody to help you die. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to throw it out there like that, but I mean, I'm trying to understand, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm really trying to understand how you could say that the other thing is okay, but somebody that murders people without any kind of remorse and without the DNA is there, but you have a problem with that. I can't wrap my head around that. Help me understand it, please.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because we don't have the death penalty in this country, so it just doesn't seem... It's not part of what happens here. People go to prison. I'm very uncomfortable with that punishment, I think. I don't know. It just seems wrong to me. I don't know why.
Okay.
I think that if somebody wants to commit suicide, that's their life and that's up to them. But for somebody else to take somebody's life...
But they would have taken somebody's life, Julie.
I know, I understand that, but
okay.
I don't necessarily think that we should be going to the biblical eye for an eye.
I'm not even going through the biblical because, I mean, honestly, I don't think that that's really, and the Bible, as we know, contradicts itself. I don't think in the religion that I believe that actually is, acceptable. You're not supposed to take somebody's life. However, I am certainly for, if somebody has done such a horrific crime and the DNA is there, that person to me cannot be fixed. They can't be fixed. And therefore, to me, by all means, I do believe in capital punishment. And I agree with Paula. I don't give a shit if they electrocute you, if they stone you. I put my dog down in a humane way of putting poison basically inside of their body so that they die peacefully. I don't see that for somebody who has just caused havoc and has killed people or raped people. I don't think that they should die as humanely as my pet. I don't.
Well, but Lisa, the poor criminal justice. We can't make them go on an electric chair because it's painful and sparky, so let's just inject them. Let me tell you something. This is what I think they should do to these
animals.
Without doubt, monsters. Give them an hour with the families of the people that they've taken. Somebody who has a child that was raped and murdered. You remember Jean Walsh, little Adam Walsh's grandmother? Let them have an hour with these monsters, and then after that, kill them in the most painful way there is.
By the way, and I just want to say this because Paula and I worked when we worked at the park together. We worked with the grandmother of a 6-year-old boy who was found decapitated. And it was only after that little boy was found decapitated and this woman knew how her grandson was murdered that Paula and I had the pleasure and, in my opinion, the blessing to work with this woman named Jean Walsh, who lost her grandson in a most horrific act. And I don't know if you know this, Paula, but Jean has since passed on.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she did. But anyway, I owed Jean a shout out for a long time ago because she changed my life for me.
Yeah, she was a great woman.
So, but the camera's on Debbie, who's moving it to Paula, so I'm a little confused. Debbie, what were you going to say?
I'm just going to just give it to Paula.
Okay.
Well, I'm done. I said what I needed to say.
Okay, so we're going to go to Jenny Reed. Jenny, what's your feeling about capital punishment and...
Well, as I believe I've said before, I find it a very difficult issue to deal with. But if you're 110% sure, yes, I know we've done that. But if you're 110% sure, then yes, they should suffer the ultimate punishment. But the question is, what is the correct ultimate punishment? And last time we talked, Paula had a very good point that really changed my thinking. Oh, that's her dog. Anyway, Paula had a very good point that really changed my thinking last time, which was that people actually suffer more if you leave them alive and put them in a very difficult, hard-working situation. Like,
yeah.
So I think, it to me that seems like the right choice. But I don't have any moral problems with the death penalty, although I do want to say, correction to you, that's not biblical. That's the Hammurabi Code. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is Hammurabi, of which the biblical...
That's also in the Old Testament.
Yeah, they did follow it, but they got it from Hammurabi, not the other way around. It's the Hammurabi Code that you were talking about. But anyway, I don't really have a moral problem with that. If I were Christian, I should, because Jesus said, I give you a new law. But since I'm not Christian, that's fine by me. But that's all I have to say.
Okay, Paula, you had your hand up.
I just want to say something, Jenny. I agree. Death is pain. I mean, after they spark to death on the electric chair, then they're dead. They're not suffering anymore. So this is what I propose. First, let the families torture them, and then throw them on some deserted island where they have to fend for themselves, or better yet, they can date my ex. I don't know. That's or maybe. I mean, date my ex, stay with the ex for like 20 years, and it's a feat way worse than death or stoning or the electric chair. But other than that, because she could only probably handle 5 people at a time, I don't know. So she couldn't handle the whole penal system. But you really should, I mean, they should really these jails today, 3 outs and a cut, gym memberships, free medical care. They got college degrees in cable TV. That's not punishment. Send them to like send them to an Iran. Let's do a prisoner swap. So lower the cost of oil, and we'll send you our prisoners. Put them to work. Don't feed them. Come on, punish them. Punish them.
Okay.
Go ahead, Debbie.
I just okay. So I mean, there are people on the panel who agree with capital punishment and those who don't. But for the ones who do, and personally, I do too. But honestly, I don't want to be the one who would have to take that shot at that person and end that life. And I don't know, you don't have to answer. I don't know if, either Jen or Lisa, I don't know, how your feelings, or Paula, I don't know how your feelings are now, but
take that shot.
In other words,
Flip the switch.
Yeah.
I'll flip the switch.
Paula would flip the switch. What about you, Lisa?
If there was If there was
If I knew
DNA,
they were guilty without doubt, I'd be flipping that switch so fast before you could say Sparky Sparky.
if there was DNA, if there was DNA on the body, and there was definite proof, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I don't think I would have a problem flipping the switch.
Okay.
So,
Honestly, I could not do it. I mean, I could logically agree with you that it should be done as long as I'm not the one doing it. But if I could not do it, that taking another life under any circumstances is not okay for me. That is,
Jenny,
I mean,
what if we
no matter
tied
how
the
horrible
string?
they are.
let me ask you a question, Jenny.
What if we tied?
Jenny, let me ask you a question. You said that, and this is just for debate purpose, not for argument. You said that you didn't have a problem with capital punishment providing the same thing that I feel, that, you know, you got to be 100% sure the DNA's got to be there. Okay, and you're on.
I'm
You're
perfectly okay
wait a
with
minute.
that.
Wait a minute. The question is this: you're on the jury, and you've said, yep, the guy's guilty, the woman's guilty, whatever, and they say, okay, well, you know, what about capital punishment? Would you vote for the capital punishment?
Sure, if
Okay,
I felt
so
that was the
now-
correct response.
Now here's the thing.
Yes.
And once again, it's not as any disrespect or anything, but you wouldn't physically flip the switch, but
No, I
you
would not.
you would be part of ending somebody's life just by the gesture of saying, yes, he's guilty, and yes, I think that the punishment should be death.
That is correct.
Okay.
And yes, you found illogical inconsistency.
Well, I mean, no, you know, I was just trying to understand, and to also just say, you know, you could do this, but you couldn't do that. And listen, I understand that. Those are boundaries and limits that we have in our life. That's all, you know,
That is mine.
that's all I'm saying.
That is my boundary.
I agree with Jen though. I mean, I could, you know, I could be on, you know, making that decision, but again, you know, actually coming down and doing the actual act, I could not.
Right. And
It's weird. I don't know why. It's just weird. I don't know.
okay, all right,
It's
I
not
got
weird.
it.
I don't think it's weird because I agree with you. I
Okay.
couldn't do it either.
And Julie, you just would put them on a flowery little island, or I mean, or continue to keep paying for them, which I guess you guys do because you don't have capital punishment.
It depends what you think that prison is for, and I guess at the moment most people think it's punishment, and I don't think that works, and I don't think it's necessarily helpful to just get rid of a problem. I know that these people are doing really awful things, I understand that, but to just, you know, okay, I don't want that now anymore, you know.
Let me tell you, I think
instead it would be more helpful to try, if we can, to understand what's going on with people. We know that some of these people are mentally ill, but, you know, if we can understand what people's motivations are, then maybe we can somehow rehabilitate them and try to get them to be helpful members of society again, rather than just trying to destroy the problems that we don't like to live with.
Okay, but I need to say something for the United States prison and jail system, being that I spent 8 years working for it. It's not so much for punishment. I was always told it's not your job to punish them. They're already being punished. The purpose of the jail and the prison is to keep the good people safe in the country and the bad people locked away from them. So it's for protection. What?
That's not going to be a solution because they're going to be let out.
Some people do life sentences and aren't let out.
Well, in this country, a life sentence is maximum 25 years. So generally, they would be let out. We don't have life sentences. So, you know, we need to learn how to help people to reintegrate them into society, to try to make them helpful rather than criminals.
So let me ask you this, because I'm just ignorant now. So, in other words, from what I gathered from what you said, the UK believes that nobody's really broken and everybody can be fixed. If they don't have life sentences, then they believe that 25 years of whatever goes on in your prisons will only make that person come out and be a better citizen. Am I understanding that?
I don't know what the UK thinks generally, but that sounds about right, doesn't it? I mean, that's just my personal opinion that we need to learn how to rehabilitate people. But you're right that if we only have a maximum of 25 years in prison, then there must be a point when people think these people are going to get better and be re-released. But then, of course, we have people who reoffend almost straight away and go back to prison. So there's definitely something wrong with the penal system in the UK. But maybe it's more towards rehabilitation than punishment. And definitely not, I definitely don't think it's good to just try to, get rid of a problem. Because that person is still a person. And they did what they did for whatever reason. And surely they deserve a chance at life now.
Okay.
Probably gonna jump at me for that, but that's how I feel.
Okay. Well, we're gonna end the show, because we're trying to keep it under an hour. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add or say as a last remark or anything? So if I could get a goodbye from everybody.